this particular breakout session is about how we put human-centric design at the heart of our digital transformation. So as I shared, that Bob and myself will cover this session jointly as soon as Bob can join. In the meantime, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm based in the United Kingdom, and I work for GlaxoSmithKline. I'm responsible for our Global Procurement Center of Excellence. And as part of that, clearly it is our intention and agenda to try and deliver digital transformation. And how we do that is really focus on the right people who can apply the technology to try and create the right value paradigm. So that's at the heart of how we set up and ensure that we can create maximum value for the different parts of the GSK business that benefit from the technology improvements. Now, let me tell you, when we started this particular journey, our focus was on getting the basics right, getting the digital estate on top of which we wanted to build procurement value creation and value delivery, wasn't working as optimally as before. So when we embarked on this particular transformation, what was at the heart of this was to create the right estate on which we could build value creation, interaction with the different parts of GSK's business, and more importantly, to make the entire experience of working with a procurement platform as easy and as simple as possible. So that was at the heart of it, and we partnered with IBM on this journey, and that partnership evolved as time went on, as you can imagine, because we experienced the pandemic in the midst of this, and you'll hear a little bit more for those of you eagle-eyed attendees of the conference. Tomorrow, our CPO and my boss will be talking a little bit more about how we faced some of the challenges in one of the keynote sessions at Digital Procurement World this year. So let me move us along in our discussion, and maybe we'll come back to some of this if Bob is able to get the technology to work, and for him to be able to join us in this particular session. This is a great quote talking about how to drive consensus and how to get people aligned. This is from Oscar Wilde. Whenever people agree with me, I always feel I must be wrong. I also would love to build on this particular quote, because I think it's when too many people agree with you, you must feel that that I must be wrong. I think sits at the heart of it, and I think the reason why Bob included this particular quote was it's hard to drive everybody moving in the right direction, and at the core of that is people. We do business with people, and people at the end of the day need to support and get behind any large transformational change that we're making, particularly in the digital world, where it is a buzzword, but at the same time there is a massive expectation of value from all senior leaders in every organization. And when it came to our particular transformation, that was exactly what was the expectation that I had as well. Okay, so I'll try and do my level best to cover some of Bob's slides, and ideally we wanted this to be a bit of an interactive session. However, the sentiment on this slide is, how do we try and make sure that the priorities of the business match the choices we make on the technology, the platforms, and the solutions that we're really interested in delivering. And we've got to get everybody on the bus to make sure that that particular change is being driven in the right way. And at the heart of this, for us at GSK, when we worked with IBM, was design thinking. How do we try and make sure that the how we go about the approach on delivering this large scale transformation in our procurement organization was led by very smart design thinking ideas and initiatives that then we could transfer to driving consensus and getting people behind this change, because we all believed in it and we all felt that this would achieve the business outcomes that we'd set ourselves to, which I will talk about when I cover the core slides from a GSK side. Okay, so we talked about the human-centric approach of the transformation, and therefore the persona approach that IBM were able to bring to us. So what are the moments that people interacting with the entire procurement process and journey, what are those moments that people go through? There may be moments of real pleasure and happiness that, wow, this thing worked very fast, quickly, etc. Or it could be moments of frustrations. And in my experience, many a time it is, why is it so hard to do what we're trying to achieve? And mapping those moments was key. And IBM brought some great methodology and best practices to us at GSK when we partnered with them on this particular exercise. I may hear some background noise. Unfortunately, I can't quite see while I'm sharing my screen. Bob, is that you who's joined us?
Yeah, it is. Excuse me. Yeah.
Hi, Bob. Hello.
Okay, great.
Sorry, everyone. Excuse me. No matter how much you prepare, it's very hard to get all the content right. So let me just talk to this. I apologize for being late. So the point here is that as you look to design a transformation map, there's a whole bunch of different competing technologies, and those competing technologies might get used for put forward by a whole bunch of different people. And the challenge actually is to drive consensus. And to drive consensus, you need to have aligned with senior and more junior people. And then what you need to be able to do is actually understand what are the moments that really matter. What are the moments that really matter that actually derive value to the business? And those moments that matter can either be strategically required capabilities, the capabilities that are required to actually drive forward your business strategy, or they're also the pain points. So at a senior level, you can align around the critical capabilities, and you also then use design thinking to identify the pain points. So put the next build on, please, Nitin. What you can see is a component business model. This is our view and how we articulate business capability. And so start to think about what are the various different capabilities we want to enhance. Next build, yeah. So the first thing we need is actually some sort of sense of supplier insight. You might use, for example, a supplier like Bureau. You've identified by mapping the moments that matter, which is those business critical capabilities and the pain points onto this map. You know that's the area where you want to scale those capabilities globally. The next one. You're then thinking, actually, I also want to be able to drive, so if it's a life sciences company or a consumer company, it's really important for me to be able to understand the sort of analytics and understand performance, particularly compliance analytics, increasingly sustainability analytics. You might have a tool from an organization like Zycus. Next build, yeah, please. And you also sort of need to start to think, well, yeah, and what are the areas of capability around supplier onboarding, right? So particularly if you're in a regulated industry like life sciences or financial services, that's quite an onerous process. So are you going to use a solution like Trust Your Supplier to specifically solve that pain point? And then next build, please, Nitin. And finally, if you like, and again, for many organizations, whether you're being sort of goods businesses or services business, a lot of complexity sits in services procurement. So you're trying to specify and order complex services, and make sure you then receipt those appropriately and deal with changes. And you might decide to use a tool like Globality. And in this case, you can see it's sort of both the green color to signify its user pain points and its critical capability in the market. So in that case, you then map a single tool and scale that globally. Finally, the next build then. So from a workflow perspective, because you think about the process in procurement, the sort of systems that are used in procurement don't really match what we need to do. So quite often you'll fall out of conventional solutions like Ariba or Cooper, and you're then thinking about, well, how can I then deal with people if they're not in the happy day process, right? If they have a process issue, am I going to use a conversational tool like Watson to be able to say to someone, "You've got a problem, can you step back in?" I'm going to use a tool like Celonis to understand performance, and therefore, as a combination of those two things, you're then saying, I'm going to construct a series of intelligent workflows using maybe some of those technologies or your own technology to be able to scale that globally. So by thinking through the moments that really matter, differentiation capability, and user pain points, you can get absolute consensus in the business about what you're going to focus on, clears away the rest, then you can drive forward. The next build then, please, Nitin. And how do you go about selecting those technologies? Well, of course, you can rely on tools like ScoutLab for digital procurement world to help to understand what some of those capabilities look like. And then finally, and I think this is the sort of secret sauce here. Which of the processes you really focus on? By working with a business and agreeing what's going to be standard, and everything else other than those things that you've agreed to differentiate could be standard, you can really then use standard functionality in things like SAP or Oracle or Cooper or Ariba, and then really focus the efforts on those differentiated areas to make sure you deliver that capability and then make sure that you solve the pain points. And that really allows you to go extremely fast through the process of deployment. And Nitin will tell you about the pace through which we were able to deploy Ariba at GSK shortly. So next final build then, Nitin. So then you see, so if in the case of GSK, we had something like 700 different captured user pain points, which were assimilated into 70 individual themes, and then from those themes, we then stepped into a workshop over 2 days and planned the program, and it was a really great launchpad to bring everyone together to create consensus and momentum, from which we then progressed. So over to you, Nitin, to take the story from there.
No, thanks for that, Bob. And Bob, I know due to technical issues, I definitely did not do justice to your earlier slide. Would you like to just pick up anything on design thinking or consensus momentum that you haven't been able to cover on the previous slide? And if you wish, I can move us back to that slide, or should we carry on? Oh, we may have lost Bob. Let's carry on. So let me tell you about the experiences at GSK, right? So we wanted to truly transform our particular procurement digital estate, and we wanted to start really from the basics. So we started with our policy. What was the policy that underpinned how people bought goods and services at GSK was where we actually began and re-looked at the complexity of GSK being a large consumer healthcare, pharmaceutical and vaccines business, has a fair amount of complexity and a variety of colleagues around the world who need to buy goods and services to keep the business running. So policy was where we started us, and wanted to make sure that we looked at what we were expecting the different parts of the business to be able to do, and with the help of the right players, we wanted to then choose a product, and in this case, we decided to pick Ariba to be that foundational layer on which we build all the different procurement tools that we wanted to use and get our data estate in the right place. So Ariba e-sourcing, we actually started with a spend cube first to make sure that we've got the right building blocks. Ariba e-sourcing, we have 700 or so procurement professionals in the global procurement organization, making sure that they were able to utilize the different functionality that's available, and also enhance the current setup that they had, which was legacy SAP, Ariba contract management, and building that entire life cycle all the way into guided buying. So guided buying was a very important module for us because, and I'll talk a little bit about one of the personas where we were focused very heavily on how the guided buying application could really change, would be a game changer for the 14,000 people who requested goods and services across GSK. Okay, so what was the approach that we followed? So we took, we put the people at the center of designing our approach and the design thinking that Bob was talking about earlier, and I was alluding to on some of those earlier slides. And we created personas of who matters, whose experiences matter in this space, and we tried to design our personas related to that. Agile was the how we wanted to do this, and at the core of it, it was value. What is the value that this will create for us? So who are the personas? So business owners. So at GSK, we have a concept of business owners. The business owners are decision makers. So they have the D in GSK. The requesters, the folks who are also termed as shoppers in different parts of in different organizations that I've worked at. The procurement leaders, and of course, the operations colleagues who are making all of this happen behind the scenes. Okay, so now I'm going to just pick one particular persona to give you a flavor. We don't have time to be able to cover all the different personas. So this is a classic one where the frustration that users experience or requesters experience sometimes gets unnoticed. And this is where that link back into guided buying comes in. And this gives a really interesting view of the fact that, we have a large tail like many organizations do. So 7% of our spend makes up 80% of our volume. And we really wanted to introduce the benefits that you see on the right-hand side of the screen about the right buying channels, the right preferred suppliers that this persona, and this would be a game changer for them. So that was the how we went about it. The deployment itself was complex, long, needed to be rejigged in the midst of the pandemic, and that's when I called Bob and his team to help us ensure that the ambition that we had of deploying this in 18 months across 15 waves in 60 countries. And in those 60 countries, there are multiple sites based on the country that we needed to get to. So an immensely complex approach of us targeting multiple languages, multiple users, different cultures, various general managers and finance leads, and taking them through the same journey that we needed to adopt here. I'm going to just share with you a bit of a summary to give you a flavor, and then we'll move very quickly into the Q&A part of this session. We deployed 4 modules, and we did that all in 2.5 years. What most people are telling me is that is, including SAP Ariba, that is pretty good, pretty record time for the size and scale of what we have been trying to do here at GSK. We trained 14,000 requesters. Actually, since these slides have been published, our final set of users are also now off and are happily using Ariba versus our legacy environments. We brought together multiple different procurement systems from the way GSK were organized all into one platform across GSK, which was immense, and truly changed some of the pain points that people were experiencing here at GSK. We also delivered a lot of training in this remote world that we've been living in, and really was able to reach majority of the shoppers in record time for each wave as we were adopting, and then got the straddlers along as well once we closed the deployment. So what's next? The Ariba guided model buying module has a lot of potential. We have to continue to focus. I kind of feel that we've built the Quickie Mart. We've got to now keep the goods and services that we wish for shoppers to be able to buy with ease. We've got to make sure that they're current, relevant, and the right channels are available to the shoppers so that their life continues to be our focus and making things better. And in order to do this, we are looking at various different analytics tools, and how do we make sure that the behaviors are optimized. Bob referred to Celonis. It's definitely one of the platforms that we're looking at GSK to help us enable this journey. Bob also talked a little bit about Trust Your Supplier. We're piloting that particular tool here at GSK, and various other enablers that we wish to build on this foundation layer that we've created at GSK, and drive analytics in a very smart and different way. I'll close this session very quickly, but I'm going to use one example. When it comes to a lot of the sales force in many different companies, especially here at GSK, we've got some really smart machine learning and AI-based algorithms that recommend what's the next best action for those reps to take. For us in procurement, it's all about making sure that we are able to create a similar experience for our buying professionals. How do we try and get the next predictive, prescriptive action for them to be able to take in their journey, and make sure that our data estate, be that spend, be it prices going up or risks that we are managing in the supply chain, how do we take all that information and make it extremely knowledgeable and action-based prompts to our procurement professionals? We're also expanding our footprint in regional delivery centers in Poland and in India. And of course, we continue to, and this will become an even more important point for us at GSK, to invest in digitally smart and digitally savvy talent as we move forwards. Right, and now to the Q&A session. So I will stop sharing because I'm not a master of this technology, so that I can actually maybe see some of the Q&A aspects.
So I've answered a couple of questions. Tangible benefits directly from transformation?
So tangible benefits, we've got rid of our legacy landscape. That's extremely tangible for us. Our multiple legacy landscapes, I should say. A massive improvement in the speed with which we are able to perform various different things, including I was reviewing literally last week with our vendor master team, and we've sped up our vendor onboarding by 50%, which is immense. So various benefits is the way that I would kind of articulate it, Bob, and those benefits haven't stopped. So this is the platform and the foundation for us at GSK Procurement from which we can build and do many, many more things. But fundamentally, we're also targeting, and this is a journey for us, how the deals that our procurement professionals are doing, how do we try and drive more and more shoppers to those deals through the new buying channels that we now have access to, which we never had historically. So it's also about all these lovely savings that we create. How do we make sure that the value from that is captured in the execution from the shopper base and the shopper community, that they can take advantage of all those good deals? And I've just seen Madeline's comment, so I will absolutely talk about that. At the core of this, so Madeline asked, user adoption and ease of use, better data analytics. Yeah, totally. So user adoption, do you know what? People can, and I've had people come up to me and talk about how easy it is to approve POs using their phones, which is something that we were not able to do. So in the new world of everything being mobile, that's definitely a massive user adoption, experience improvement Our users are adopting the environment and actually telling us that this is so much easier to use than our historic platforms. And on the analytics side, a lot to do. Celonis is the start to help us, and we continue on this journey, Madeline, as I was explaining about, the next best action equivalent in procurement that I want to try and create. So that's the journey we're on.
So, question about the use of machine learning and analytics. I guess, Nitin, you used a combination of analytics up front to understand the content we needed to enable and work through some of the legacy contracts. So, we also then used analytics extensively through the course of the project and afterwards, and also used Watson conversation whilst it's not machine learning to be able to deal with some of the FAQs.
Totally, and we've got a ServiceNow wrapper that sits in front of that makes that user experience of getting help, getting support, and getting the how-to questions answered rather than waiting for a help desk, which is also a massive improvement. And it's ongoing. Analytics and the use of analytics, as Bob was explaining, is not something that you do once off. It's how you embed it into how you want decision making to be faster, be fact-based, and get the right outcome that you're setting yourself to be able to achieve.
So I think we're coming close to time.
Is there any other
final
questions? Yeah, we can. Do we have time for one more, Bob, or not quite?
Yeah, I think we should do.
Okay, I see one more question. Did you integrate contract management with guided buying for indirect sprint? Yes is the quick answer. The slightly longer answer is it depends on the type of indirect procurement contract. So if there is, and we're still, really excited about the opportunities that the new buying channels give us. But if we can do more marketplaces, more punch-out catalogs, more end bids and a buy of truly preferred suppliers that we set up, that's kind of the direction that we're really going. So, it's a great question. We definitely are linking everything from the sourcing event to the contracting to guided buying. So that's kind of the linked journey that we're trying to create. If you ask me today, is all our content linked in that way? No, because we had to migrate a lot of contracts that were legacy, but all our new ones and how we fit our category strategies to that is how we're positioning moving forwards.
Okay, well, I think we're coming to the top of the time. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and thank you very much for Nitin for your involvement. Very much appreciate
Absolute
it.
pleasure.
And handling my technical challenge, Nitin. Thank you.
No worries, but at least
Thanks,
I can
everyone.
see you now,
Bye-bye.
Bob.